Welcome to Audible Sportscast, your home for all things sports. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. We have Brett and Jeff here. How's it going, Brett?
Good.
That's good. Another week down of the NFL offseason. Only a couple more to go, to say the least. But hey, baseball, spring training, opening days around the corner. Today, March has started. So, March tournament's right around the corner also. And hey, keep an eye out. We're going to have another bracket tournament this year. So, once Selection Sunday happens, we'll make sure to get those links out to everybody. We'll see. Maybe some prizes.
Speaking of, sorry to cut you off, of college basketball, do you hear about the guy from Detroit?
No, what?
He plays for a small college in Detroit. I'll get his name. He is on pace to beat Pistol Pete's NCAA record.
Really?
For all-time points, but I don't think it should. I don't think it should count, to be honest, because he's played 5 years. Pistol Pete did it in less than 4.
Well, if that's the case, no records
Detroit,
in the NFL should count.
It's Detroit Mercy. His name's Antoine Davis. He is 28 points away, and they keep winning in their small little tournament he's in, whatever that. I can't think of the conference, but yeah, he plays again tonight.
Well, hopefully he gets it, and then maybe we can talk. Does he deserve it? I'd say yes. I think that.
I mean, if you base it on what he's averaging, he'll have it this game. Because this season he's the national leader in points per game, 3-pointers, and 3-pointers per game in the whole NCAA.
Dang. Well,
I mean, I've never heard of Detroit Mercy before, but
hey, well, he is putting it on the map, and maybe he'll take his talents to the G League here in a couple.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we all know that's kind of unfortunately where those small guys go. They'll be lucky when those small guys that score like that go. But hey, we'll see. You never know. Sometimes, I'm completely wrong a lot more than I'm completely right. But yeah, hey, that's March for you. We'll have another bracket challenge, hopefully, once Selection Sunday happens here in a couple weeks, and we'll have maybe a couple prizes for everybody. But that you're gonna have to sign up to even be hoping to get those prizes. But yeah, hey, even though football's gone, there's still lots of sports happening. But we're gonna stick to talking football. This week is the Combine, so a lot of teams are evaluating a lot of players. I believe NFL teams are allowed to interview up to like 300 some players during the Combine weekend. That's here in Indiana. It's been in Indianapolis for a while. It's great to have it here. Hopefully one day we can go. That'd be cool. But some of these, a handful of these head coaches at the Combine are brand new to either being a head coach or on a new team. So we thought it'd be a good idea this week to talk about these new head coaches and kind of what we maybe expect from them, and at least, this year and looking a little bit into the future and if they're really in a good spot. So let's start. Speaking of here in Indy, let's start right here in Indianapolis, or not here in Indianapolis, but in Indianapolis, where they have got themselves a new head coach in Shane Steichen. Eagles offensive coordinator the last couple years. Obviously led them.
Has he done enough is my question. I don't know.
I don't know the proper numbers to this, but I'm pretty sure since he took over play calling duties, they've lost 5-6 games over the last 2 years, not including the I guess maybe even including the Super Bowl. We all saw what Jalen Hurts did in the Super Bowl. Look at their numbers from this year. They were Third in yards per game, ninth passing, fifth rushing, third in scoring. That sounds like a pretty good offense, even
if you have the players to do it. I don't know if Indy's got it.
I mean, if anyone has similar players to the Eagles, I would say the Colts. I mean, they have what could be a potential top 5 offensive line, obviously, if everyone plays the way they should. They have Jonathan Taylor, who, even though he had a down year, could be a top 5 back, if not top 3 or 2. You have a couple wide receivers there. I mean, obviously, you can still go and sign and draft more, and you have the top. You have a top 4 pick right now that a lot of people think could potentially turn into a top 1 pick, and they go and draft C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, and even Anthony Richardson. Those kind of 4 guys are all right now guys who could be taken early in this draft that could be potential stars in the league at quarterback. Who knows who they'll fall in love with? Obviously, we've seen Jim Irsay talk about seems to at least be wanting Bryce Young, so everyone thinks they'll trade up for 1 for him. I don't know, but I think if they get the right quarterback, they could be in a pretty good spot when really I would say they're right now the only competition is Jacksonville in their division.
Yeah.
And I think when looking at the way the Eagles' offense was, and not only was he with the Eagles and Hurts the last 2 years, but he's had experience in San Diego and /LA with the Chargers. He was, in the offensive schemes with Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert in his rookie year. So it's not like, he's an inexperienced offensive, coach. He's been around a plethora of dudes, and as we've seen, that's some pretty good play calling designs in Philadelphia. Obviously, we see with the QB sneak that's potentially going to get banned because of the way they implemented it. The way of moving Hurts around, using his. It's a good team in using what they have right. Now, is Indy as talented as Philadelphia? I don't think so, but it's a good stepping stone, and I think if anyone's in the best position of all the new head coaches, it is Shane Steichen. It just depends how they go at quarterback, which is what we've been saying about Indy pretty much since Luck retired.
Yeah.
So hopefully they do it right and go young this time. Not Bryce Young, but young as in draft a guy. And who knows? Who knows what can happen? That could be, it's always good to have a head coach and a quarterback come in at the same time, especially that being a first-time head coach. They grow together, they learn together. Hopefully they mold together, and it's a pretty talented team when you look at it. I mean, you got Shaquille Leonard, you have DeForest Buckner, you have, Kenny Moore in the secondary. You got a plethora of guys on both sides of the field in a division I'm not going to say is easy, but we're seeing a lot of different things change. There's early reports Tannehill might be gone this offseason from Tennessee. I don't know how that's all going to go, but the Colts have a chance here to get a good guy, get a good quarterback, and just make plays. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think they'll be able to. This could be a good gig for Steichen to reinvent the offense and bring Indy another generation quarterback.
They need some lifeblood in that team, so yeah, it should be good.
Oh, definitely. And I don't know if you've seen some of the videos that have came out when he would be trying to pump up the Eagles. He is a dude. He's definitely going to be a good leader for that team. I think he's just overall in the best spot. Would you maybe agree with that? And
yeah, I agree with you. He's probably in the best spot at the moment. Yeah.
And I know. We mentioned they have the 4th overall pick right now. Who do you think they should draft quarterback wise? And do you think they should, not considering you're a Bears fan, take the Bears fan out of you? Should they trade up to 1?
If there's any team that would trade up to 1, I think Indy being a dome team would be one of the better fits for Young. Just given his smaller build, I don't think
that's a good point.
I don't think he's built for certain conditions. I mean, he could be. I could be completely wrong. I'm not saying small guys aren't tough. I'm just saying, based on what I hear and what I read, the dome might be beneficial for him.
Maybe. I mean, it didn't help Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck was a big dude trying to take hits. Bryce Young will probably not be trying to do the same thing. That's a whole different situation. I can't believe I even compared it, but that'd be one way to look at it, where if the Colts do trade up to the number 1 pick to take whoever it is, whether it's Young, more than likely people think it would be Young if a team trades up for one. But hey, who knows what they can get out of Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Will Levis. I think they'll
I hear, Will Levis would be the Colts guy because he fits the style. But that doesn't mean anything right now. That's just people looking on the outside, looking in, saying, "Oh, he fits their style. He'd be a good fit." You know,
that's people talking. I mean, who knows what they have in their mind? The front office, like they haven't done pro days yet. They haven't done the combine. I mean, obviously, not all the quarterbacks are going to perform at the combine, but a handful of them are going to. Some of those top prospects are.
I just think someone like Will Levis, the guys he played in college are not at the same level as the other two guys ahead of him.
No, he still played SEC football, but it's more about the guys around him.
He did, but he didn't.
He didn't put up the numbers that the other two guys did. That's for sure.
I mean, his tape looks good, the stuff I've seen, the limited stuff, but I don't know.
I mean, no matter what way, no matter who you're drafting.
He reminds me of a Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, wow. I mean, what's wrong with quarterbacks coming from a basketball school? He went to North Carolina. Will Levis from Kentucky.
It's just that they didn't. Like, Bryce Young's had a buzz around him for a couple years, not just this year.
Yeah, he won the Heisman. He went to he's an Alabama quarterback.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Ohio State quarterbacks lately have been boom or bust. Like they have, they produce a lot. So it's with C.J. Stroud. You just hear the name. Also, I'm a Big Ten football fan, so I hear his name more. But I feel like Will Levis just popped up this year, and that's kind of how Mitch was.
Yeah, that's how a lot of guys. I mean, people make a living out of trying to determine which is the best quarterback. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, one can be taken. Will it be the right choice? I mean, we saw it in maybe not last year's draft because there's no quarterbacks taken in the first, 2 rounds. So, but year before, 3 quarterbacks went right off the bat. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. But then there's 2 other quarterbacks that were taken later in the first that people would probably say they should have taken over guys like Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 quarterback from that draft class, so it's okay he went number 1, but Zach Wilson's looking like he might be in the CFL here in a year or 2. And
speaking of that, fun quarterback fact for you. Paxton Lynch is the only quarterback to get benched in the NFL, the CFL, the XFL, and the USFL.
I did see that. And he was one of those guys taking the first round out of Memphis and was supposed to be like the, replacement of Peyton Manning since Brock Osweiler wasn't good enough. So, like,
I actually thought he was going to be good, to be honest.
Yeah, well, so did the Texans for giving him a $80 million contract?
But I think he's one of those guys that he fit the mold that everybody wanted a great quarterback to look.
Oh, yeah, he was like 6'7",
weight,
long arm.
Yep. Kind of like Ryan Mallett.
Yeah, well, he's not really a name that you should
No, I'm saying he's another
to.
one of those guys who was a big, tall, strong arm.
Yeah.
And then, boom, nothing.
The magical thing about quarterbacks nowadays is they come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, we all know what Tom Brady looked like at the combine. We don't have to, almost 30 years ago it feels like. But there's Kyler Murray who's a Pro Bowl quarterback, and we see, We have Josh Allen, who's this big, strong, tough. We have Patrick Mahomes. He's a normal height, but he's faster than he looks. He's got the arm of an Olympic like javelin thrower. I don't know what to compare him to. Like, it's just they come in all shapes and sizes. So it's almost like people shouldn't be looking at Bryce Young's height. They should be looking at, is he a good leader? Is he a good just passer? What can he do to help your team win? Is he smart? Can he, in a scramble, like, can he just go on the fly and do whatever? So, maybe we shouldn't be caring how small he is and just let him play. And then if he doesn't work, then maybe we should. But we see with Kyler.
I mean, I think the benefit too you're motivating that guy to become better. All these people, because literally he has to live his life with people just right now. If he turns on most media outlets, they're crapping on him.
Well, it's like Kyler Murray too. They've been doing that since he's been drafted, whether it's Call of Duty stuff or his height.
I was just about to say. I think he's busy playing COD right now. Let's leave him out of this.
Yeah, and like it's come to a point where those jokes are just boring. Like,
I know.
It's getting out of hand about how bad they are. And what do you think that's doing to Kyler? Like, you think he's not motivated by that enough?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think with him, he just took advantage of the opportunity to get paid because of what was going. It's just the market.
It's always going to be a QB market. And right now, it looks like it's about to change again. Depending on if Lamar can get the contract you can argue deserves, and I would argue that. It's interesting stuff. So let's go. So talking about Shane Steichen being probably the best spot. Let's talk about a coach in a position where I think might be the worst, in Sean Payton. Now, I love Sean Payton as a head coach. I think he's a really good coach. But the reason I say it's the worst is because, one, can he fix Russell Wilson? Is Russell Wilson even a problem? And two, already draft pick, depleted. They trade more to go and get him. So
you think he's in a worse situation than, let's say, Sean McVay or his friend up in Green Bay?
I'm not saying necessarily he's in a worse spot than those teams, but I'm saying of all the new head coaches.
Oh, new head, yeah. He chose. That's
where he chose to go.
He pretty much had the green light to go get hired any open team.
Well,
and some that probably didn't have head coach openings as well.
He could have waited another year too and didn't need to be traded, but whether it was money, whether it was his people, like, he wanted to come back. Obviously there's something there. I think the Broncos, it's hard to not be better after the season they had. I think they'll still be better. We'll see. Sean Payton is kind of one of those coaches I think that could help the situations they're in. It seems like there's a lot of negativity in that locker room, and just the media takes so much advantage of it. So we'll see. But that's a lot of picks to give up for a coach, and history has never been kind per se for coaches to be traded. I know Gruden won a Super Bowl, but what did he do after that one Super Bowl? Pretty much
got banned from the NFL.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think Russell Wilson is broken, and I've never been the biggest Russell Wilson fan.
I honestly don't disagree with you.
I think he's a product of played in one system pretty much his whole time in Seattle, and I actually liked Darrell Bevell when he was his OC, and I think he helped him a lot, to be honest. Being we'll call him an average college quarterback, so he had a QB experience, and I think when he just went to a new system, it just didn't work, and then he floundered.
Yeah. Sometimes that's that's all it is you have it could be a down year, it could be, there's just so much that could happen, and who knows, like, we kind of saw a different side of Russell Wilson kind of this year. It's just kind of this folky guy. I don't even know how to really describe it.
Eclectic individual.
Yeah, and it seems like Sean Payton might be the kind of guy to. So, like, when I say fix, I don't necessarily mean on the field. So maybe, it just needs the proper type of mentor to be like, hey, like, what the heck are you doing? Like, let's sit down, talk football. I know Russell
Stop being weird, and let's just win some games, man.
Yeah. So maybe that's all he needs, and who knows? And obviously, it's not the most talented team, especially when you're looking at that division. But when you have someone who I would still consider a Hall of Fame quarterback, you have a potential Hall of Fame head coach, especially if both of them can turn that team around. They're definitely going to the Hall of Fame. But, they're still missing some stuff. I mean, I know they got a pretty good defense. They got, maybe bring some guys back, spend some money.
I think it's better. They talk like it's a better defense than it actually is. You know how everyone says, "Oh, Denver's got such a great defense. They should be better."
Because as a defense, they were averaging defense was allowed 15 points per game.
No,
and they couldn't win games. So it's like the defense was pulling itself, and the offense wasn't. So we'll see. This could be a very important offseason for the Broncos. I mean, obviously it was getting Sean Payton, but
after this year, if it doesn't work, it'll be a quick exit for Wilson. I think they can afford it after.
Can they? With giving him a brand new contract, what they traded for him, what they traded for Sean Payton to go with those guys, because supposedly Russell Wilson was asking former Saints players to go talk. Like, he's a neighbor to Drew Brees. He's trying to talk to Drew Brees. Latavius Murray, who was on the team at the second half of last year, was telling him to text Sean Payton. Is this going to be, if this doesn't work, how long do you give it? Because you've put a lot of different assets into those two guys, and I know head coach salaries aren't always there, but you can't tell me Sean Payton didn't get himself a big, fat contract to come back.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It just doesn't seem like a good spot, but we were all wrong about them being good last year, so maybe we're all going to be wrong about them being bad upcoming year. So we'll see, but another head coaching job, I know you're not a big fan of this, but I think could be good if they kill this offseason. They could be a lot better than a lot of people maybe are giving them credit for, but that's DeMeco Ryans in Houston, who played in Houston as a former player.
I don't think he's going to be a bad coach. I just think he's setting himself up with a situation that needs more offensive help than defense.
Well, and luckily enough for them, they have 5 picks in the top 75. You're telling me they don't spend at least half of those picks? I mean, obviously 5 can't be divided into 2 good, so they don't. You tell me they probably don't spend at least a majority of those picks on the offensive side of the ball, getting themselves more than likely a quarterback at 2. I mean, there is a report, though, that they might wait a year to draft a quarterback. I don't know how much of that I believe.
But we know who comes out in a year.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've been wrong about quarterbacks a year out in advance. I mean, it's risky. I mean, we've also been right about a couple. I mean, obviously, you look at Trevor Lawrence. He was the first overall pick before he even played a snap at Clemson. We look at Andrew Luck, who could have went first overall in the draft before. Same draft with Cam Newton, Von Miller, and company.
Well, the Manning name, very powerful name.
That is true. It is a.
We don't know he's coming out next year, anyways. So.
Well, he's true. Not. Arch is not eligible to come out. You have to. I believe
2 more years.
You have to. I'm pretty sure be in college 3. Whether you so he can be redshirted, and I'm pretty sure it would make sense for him to, because the current Texas quarterback, I believe, is still going to be there next year, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe he gets redshirted, and then plays 2 years, and who knows? But yeah, that Manning name, it will get you a spot no matter how good or bad you are. But back to the Texans, I think this could be a pretty good spot. We've seen as a coach and as a player, he's a very vocal leader. DeMeco Ryans is. And yes, the team isn't as good as it could be. I would say they're maybe, I don't want to call them the worst team in football because obviously the Bears record-wise were worse, even though the Bears beat the Houston Texans. That's beside the point. But they're one of the worst teams in the league. They're, kind of, no one wants to seem to play for them unless you're going to pay them. But, hey, if you get a guy at quarterback, that can change a lot of things. So you That's get true. A good guy, you bring him in, he does good, get more guys around him. I mean, they drafted, I believe, John Mechie from Alabama in the 3rd round. He didn't get to play because of leukemia. So hopefully that's a dude who can ball for you once he's, back into playing form. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good out of college. So that's someone, maybe to watch out for. But I think the Houston Texans are in a good spot. Is it the best hire of the offseason? No, but I think, that was a guy that a lot of teams were wanting. That was their first guy, and he went Houston. He went home. I believe his wife is from the area too. But, you're looking at the 49ers defense that he was the coach of for the last 2 years. They were pretty much the top defense the last 2 years. He was a leader in the NFL. So, I think just, top, 5 picks in the top 75, including 2 in the first round. They have another first-round pick, keep in mind. They can do a lot with that stuff, especially if they want to maybe, I doubt they trade back from the 2nd overall pick, obviously, if they want to get a quarterback. But say they trade back at that 12 spot, get a couple more picks the next 2 years. I think they're in a very good spot, and that's. Do I think they're going to be a team to compete here in a year or two? No, but get the right quarterback, and maybe in 2 years they're same time. It's going to be a tough division here in 2 years, especially the same situation in the Colts. So I don't know. It's going to be this AFC South is going to be a lot more fun than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, they're a nice young division.
Years. Obviously Tennessee needs to figure out some stuff, but when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he's now a proven quarterback in this league, to say the least. And if this quarterback draft is a good quarterback draft, you have potentially 2 teams in that division who get their guy. I know that's kind of asking a lot to get 2 nice young stars from a draft at the quarterback position nowadays, but who knows? We might see something. But next head coach I think we should talk about. He has a lot of ties to the AFC South and is now in the NFC South coaching another team that I think with the right proper quarterback could be right into the mix, especially in the division they're in, because it's going to be not the best. It's maybe going to be the worst division in the NFL this year, but that's Frank Reich for the Carolina Panthers, who, fun fact for people who don't know, was the first ever quarterback to take a snap for the Carolina Panthers when they became a team. I'm sure plenty of people found that out too once he was hired. That's kind of a big thing at the time. This is a tricky move. I think it's a good move, though. We really didn't see with Frank Reich in Indy other than really the first year he had his guy in Andrew Luck. They tried it with Phillip Rivers. They did okay. He wasn't, the young Phillip Rivers he was, but they took him to the playoffs, and then just nothing else seemed to work. And no matter what it was, whether it was his play calling, which, a lot of Colts fans I know were mad about his play calling. It didn't seem good. But new team, you can even argue he had some of the best hirings under him to be defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, bringing some guys back too. I think if they can get their right quarterback, they're another team too that could potentially trade for that number 1 spot. They could be, a future winner of that division for a long time with the right stuff. And that's the thing that kind of sucks about talking about these teams is the fact that so much of it involves them getting the right quarterback and them being able to utilize it well. 3 of these teams, you can you can easily argue need a head coach or need a quarterback. And do they go out and draft one this year? They can, but will those quarterbacks?
Yeah, it's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of what ifs.
It's a lot of what's, and that's kind of all off-season talk kind of is nowadays. But I mean, when you look at the talent on that team, is it maybe the best in that division taking quarterback away? No, but that's the magic of the NFC South. All four of those teams need a quarterback. Brady retired. Jameis Winston sounds like he's not going to be there next year, and who knows, he's probably not. He might not be the answer for them anyway. Obviously, the Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, P.J. Walker, whoever was the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers last year, that wasn't the answer. You have also in that division the Falcons. Is Desmond Ridder the answer? That's a loaded question.
Mariota's
that is a
gone.
loaded. They cut Mariota. Obviously, if
no, I said he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. But is Desmond Ridder the answer? He's the one who started the last couple of games at the end of last year, but I don't know if he's the answer. He's going to have to compete for a battle if they go and draft somebody. I think they probably do. I could see Carolina being a team that doesn't draft a quarterback in the first round. I think maybe they stay where they're at, get a different position. I know they're kind of in that mix right now where they could be in a perfect spot maybe for an offensive tackle. There's some pretty good offensive tackles in here. Just evaluate the rest of your team, and maybe go get a guy in the second round. I feel, but it all depends. Are they willing to trade up for a guy?
Yeah, another what if.
And a team we're about to talk about here in a second, the Cardinals say now that they're willing to move up or to trade back. So if it's too much to trade for that number 1 spot, do they go and trade for that number 3 spot? Or in a situation, if the Bears go from 1 to 4, do the Bears trade back again with the Panthers and the Panthers take a quarterback at 4? There's a lot of things that could happen. I think fans are getting a little too trade crazy with all these trades, but I'm sure we will see at least one trade in the top 10. At least.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
I hope. I hope. Because if not, it can be kind of boring in that draft. But Frank Reich's tricky. I think it feels a little bit like a legacy sign, but at the same time, I'm not a horrible. I don't think he's a horrible coach, and I think that could be a sneaky good hire that we would be talking about later in a year.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah,
it's possible, but it's really tough to really say much about these guys until we see who they have at quarterback and what that quarterback can do. Maybe they go and sign a guy like Jimmy G and still draft a dude in the second round. There's some guys that could be taken later in this round. Some of them are a little older when you look at Hendon Hooker, Purdue's quarterback, whose name is randomly escaping me, even though I literally did a bunch of research on him last night. But Aiden O'Connell, I knew he'd come to me. But, guys like that, like they take them in the later rounds and, get a guy like Jimmy G. That could be something any of those NFC North-South teams could really do. So we'll see. That's another thing to keep an eye on. But last coach to talk about, I know I mentioned we're going to talk about the Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon. Eagles lose their other coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Obviously, Eagles a really good defense over the last couple years. I just don't know about this Cardinals team. Kind of like with the Broncos. I just don't know if right now is a good time to be their head coach. You have Kyler Murray, who's going to miss most of this season. You're obviously trying to trade away D-Hop. J.J. Watt retired. It's a team that feels like doesn't have a lot of direction. They have the 3rd overall pick. They could be in the market for a quarterback with there being a new head coach, new GM, but I doubt they just trade away Kyler Murray after giving a brand new contract.
No way.
And, being injured. So it just seems like a potentially bad situation. I'm not going to say anything bad about Jonathan Gannon. I think he put together a really good defense. I mean, we saw in that Super Bowl run alone from the Eagles that they were just controlling the teams they played, and they just couldn't do any. Is that some of that talent? Yes, but at the same time, you have to have a good coach to be able to put that talent in the right position. So I think he deserves credit, definitely. But this is a tricky place to go right now, and it feels like the Cardinals have always kind of been like.
I think it's one of those things where it might be not as tricky as we think. Maybe.
Why is that?
Because you had his college coach in there who he didn't respect and didn't listen to anymore. You know? So that could have been just the issue there. And then you lose the rest of the team because that's Kyler's guy. And if Kyler don't respect him, who else is going to respect him? Because Kyler's the one that should, in theory, you know?
But I think the thing that makes it a worse of a situation is you don't know what you're going to get out of Kyler, you being a new head coach and GM until maybe 2 years. Who knows if say they go winless until he's ready to play. Does he just sit out the rest of the year? They just kind of go for the tank, and then you're in a situation. Okay, if Caleb Williams or North Carolina quarterback whose name is, I know I keep forgetting quarterback draftees, but if one of those guys is a dude, okay, we haven't seen Kyler play. We kind of need somebody to win now. What do we do? And I think that's what makes this situation tricky is you don't know what you're getting into. Or we, at least as fans with no NFL sources, know the situation at hand. Because maybe this is me overthinking a little bit too. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't. We're just guessing now.
Yeah, this is all a guess. I mean, NFL is a guess. Like, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I mean, most of the time we can guess that a lot easier than if a head coach is going to be good. But, I mean, looking at all of these coaches, I don't think any of them are going to be bad. I mean, obviously, we've seen Sean Payton. We've seen Frank Reich in places and have had success. We've also seen some of them have not success, especially when you look at Frank Reich. He was fired within the season. We see Sean Payton, the bounty scandal. A lot more years of making the playoffs than not making the playoffs than you think you might remember with the Saints.
We'll probably be talking about a whole different crew of coaches this time next year. So.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's always going to be coaches that get fired. Is a guy like, oh well, all of them are escaping my name, but like Matt Eberflus. Like how much? Like if the Bears don't take a step forward this year, is he gonna get fired?
Riverboat Ron.
Ron Rivera, someone you can argue should have been fired 3 years ago. Like,
nice guy. I just don't know what they're thinking.
I don't know. I mean, you can kind of talk about that whole Washington Commanders organization from head to toe. What are they thinking? But
very true.
And we might see a lot of changes. Who knows? Maybe in the same year we'll see a new owner, a new head coach, new everything.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't got to get into the owner situation. Dan Snyder, just sell the team already. Sell it to Jeff Bezos. Sell it to, I don't know. I don't care who you sell it to. Just sell it. Get out. Get your money. You're gonna get a bunch of money for it. Like, just do it and make the Commanders good.
Maybe.
Because the rest of it, I mean, they almost made it to the playoffs, but that's a whole fiasco in itself. But, hey, they cut Carson Wentz. They said Ron Rivera said Sam Howell does not have the number one spot. They could be another team that drafts a quarterback. We'll see. Draft is a little over a month. What, a month? Almost 2 months. Or it's about a month and 3/4, I'd say. Month and 3 weeks away. So be ready for that. Obviously, the combine is going on this weekend. Make sure you keep an eye on that. Who's going to be the fastest player to run it? Who's going to be the slowest? I think it's cooler to look at the slower guys than the faster guys. Not going to lie, because then I could compare myself to them. But that's all we got for you today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification on YouTube, feedback buttons. Like I keep always saying, if you see a button, hit it, because more than likely, It's a good button, not a bad button. But hey, have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy NBA, enjoy spring training, enjoy combine, enjoy some of these college conference tournaments. Get your picks in, do some research, because now's the time to start doing the research for March Madness. So you finally become the first person to ever have a perfect bracket. It will be done eventually, maybe, probably not. But that's all we got for you today. Have a good one, everybody.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks for listening to Audible Sportscast, your home for all things sports.